Early Sunday afternoon hoops action in Chicago. The Wizards trying to get into the win column for the first time on the back end of the All-Star break. Unfortunately, not able to do it tonight. The final score 102-82. The absence of Kristaps Porzingis and the absence of Monte Morris both being felt on the court tonight. Jason Smith, we'll be joined by Chris, Drew, and Megan here in a moment, but I want to get your thoughts first on this because you and I, we talked during the game. This was an important one that the Wizards needed to win.
Well, it was a difficult game. You have a 3:30 game, kind of throws off the momentum and really the rhythm of players going out there. But I think overall, too many turnovers. I think going from the game against the Knicks, they had 19 threes. Tonight, you only had 6. So the inability to score the basketball, but also it was a difficult night. With no Porzingis out there, you expected Kuzma and Beal to kind of up their production. Bradley Beal had a very difficult night having to deal with Caruso and that man who is just everywhere, Patrick Beverley. He's making it difficult on people. He did his job tonight. Bradley Beal had 18 points today, but it was very difficult for him to go out there and score the basketball. Combine that with the inability to knock down threes on timely moments, it was just not the Wizards' day today.
Jason, we know that neither one of these teams shot a lot of threes tonight. We hit 6, Chicago hit 8. We know that Chicago is a problem in the mid-range. What did we see tonight that the Wizards weren't able to overcome in that matchup when it came to allowing Chicago those twos that they like to shoot?
Well, you got the mid-range master over there, DeMar DeRozan. He is a difficult player to play against just because he lives in that mid-range. He's not going to shoot a ton of threes. He's going to go out there. He's going to dribble. He's going to do a little pick and roll. He doesn't go very fast, but you have to stay down on his shot fake. I think early on, Danny Avdija got in a little bit of foul trouble. He had 3 in that first half, and it was frustrating because DeMar DeRozan, he does a very good job of using his body and making you think that he's going to shoot it, but he makes a great job of making that mid-range. Everybody's like, oh, you need to shoot the 3 or you need to get to the rim. This man has made a career on going to the mid-range and getting to the free throw line, and he did just that tonight.
67% of the Bulls' points came on 2-point field goals tonight, so definitely something the Wizards have to adjust to moving forward, even though we tied the season series with them. I want to bring in Chris and Drew and get their thoughts on it before we let them go. Guys, I don't want to hold you up too long. Simple question, how do we write this thing before heading to Atlanta? Drew, you go first.
You got to correct it and get your confidence back in your shot. I don't know what's happened today, but coming into the night, these guys were elite. Last 5 games are number 1 in true field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. Tonight, that was just not on display, the inability to knock down shots. And then you talk about the turnovers. Sticks brought that up. Not only did they turn the ball over, the Bulls capitalized on those turnovers and those missed shots. You got to think, a poorly missed shot, a long rebound that fuels a break is almost like a turnover. So you had a lot of those too. I mean, it was just one thing after another, on the defensive end. But like I said, the only way to correct defense some nights is making sure you can make shots.
Look, there's everything that this team wants is right in front of them. We talked about how important the game is tonight. They split the series with Chicago. Chicago's got the better conference record. You now go to Atlanta. Trae Young was special today. You got to see them. They might have a new coach by the time we get there. And then you see Toronto twice at home. These 4 games are pivotal. And right now, coming out of the All-Star break, the Wizards are 0-2. They haven't taken care of business. Today, look, Chicago got DeRozan, Levine. They were taking turns. And then they had some really good bench production, I thought, from Kobe White. But the turnovers, you can't have 25 points off of your 16 turnovers and think you're going to win on the road. So Wizards got to get on the plane. We're heading to Atlanta. And the next opportunity is you got to get a win, because if you don't, you're going to continue to put yourself in a hole, guys, where right now the opportunity's right in front of you. All the teams that are sandwiched between 7 and 11 are right there, and you're about to play them.
Chris, when we look at that competition that's going to come up against Atlanta, can you just reiterate how important it is or how challenging it's going to be, especially against Atlanta, because we haven't seen them yet this season?
Well, they've gone through a coach. I mean, Nate's been relieved of his duties. Joe's there right now, but they're talking about potentially getting Quinn Snyder. So they're dealing with who's going to be their coach, but yet they've got a lot of talent over there. You talk about Trae Young, John Collins, Onyeka Okongwu. They got a lot of pieces over there. DeJounte Murray is now a new acquisition over there. So they've got a lot of talent over there. And for Washington, got to hit shots, got to hit some free throws, and you got to lock in defensively. Look, we know Trae Young is a guy that can put up a lot of points. and he can get double-digit assists too. So we got to turn his water off to start with. And that's what's going to be really the key for Washington Tuesday night.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. I know, like you said, you're a bit of a time crunch. I want to make sure you guys get out of there. Chris and Drew, we'll see you down in Atlanta in a couple of days. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Sticks, something you and I were talking about, the absence of Kristaps Porzingis and how structured this Wizards roster is and how important it is to have, all the box checked to go into it. You don't have KP. You don't have Monte Morris. Obviously, now Daniel Gafford came to work tonight.
Yes, he
so
did.
we don't have to go about him. But my question to you is this. How important is the health of this team when it comes to their success? A lot of people are like, it's matchups. My personal opinion, a healthy Wizards team has to be priority number one.
Well, you got to be available out there, and I feel bad for Kristaps Porzingis because it was a freak accident that went into that Knicks game. But this team, they have to go out there and get the job done regardless of who's out there on the floor. I think the landlord, he did his job in Chicago. He went back to his former team in Chicago, and now he put up some numbers, 15-11. He was playing aggressive. But I think that overall, you got to have the others step up. You had Delonte Wright get put into the starting lineup, and you had Denny Avdia put into the starting lineup. They went out there, they did a great job, but the bench was kind of missing or lackluster, and you had some awkward lineups out there. But combine that with the turnovers and missing three-point baskets, that's where it becomes difficult for the Wizards to win. And this stretch of games going against these teams that are all in the hunt for the play-in and playoff possibilities, it's going to be of the utmost importance. Going down to Atlanta, they're a very scary, dangerous team. And when you fire a head coach, that kind of lights a fire under the players like, you know what? That could be a change coming soon. So I think that these teams right here that the Wizards are going to be facing, they need to take every single one of these games.
Absolutely correct, sir. Looking at the screen right now, you see the playoff picture for the Wizards in the Eastern Conference, including tonight's loss. The schedule has us at 28-32 on the season. You see 6 games back, but you look at Toronto, only at 30. The Bulls right behind us at 28. The Pacers at 27, and we mentioned those Hawks, who we will see in 2 days from now, at 32. As Chris said, the window is there. Will the Wizards step through it and get what they want, or will they be on the outside looking in? It has yet to be determined. But Jason, something else that stood out to me as I'm looking back through the box score, because I'm a nerd and I don't mind being a nerd. I love numbers. Tonight, the Wizards had 18 points in the second quarter, 15 in the fourth. On the season, the Wizards averaged 28 points in the second quarter, averaged 27 points in the fourth. You already know where I'm going here. How do they get that consistent scoring across 4 quarters and not have lulls where you drop under 20, regardless of the opponent, because we know Chicago slowed it down?
That's where you kind of expected Kuzma and Beal to come out there and boost their production. Now, Beal, he had a tough night going against Caruso, going against Beverly. You also had Kuzma. He didn't quite show up tonight. I felt kind of bad for him, too, because a 3:30 game, it kind of throws off your rhythm, throws off your momentum. But going back to the Knicks game, they shot and made 19 threes. 19 threes. That's a lot of offensive production that you didn't have today. They only made 6 threes today, minus a Porzingis, who's your leading scorer, leading rebounder. They missed him. You want to get him back into the lineup, but you want guys to be healthy because it's not going to get any easier. In the month of March, they have 16 games in 31 days. That is not a fun schedule to look at, but if you're going in there with unhealthy players, that coach is looking down the line saying, you know what? I got to get some production from some guys. So everybody's going to get an opportunity to play. You have to be ready to go out there and produce.
And, dude, when you talk about producing, we've got to have more than 1 made 3 in the second half. The Wizards had 5 in the first half, 1 made 3 in the second half of this game against the Bulls. I want to bring in Megan McPeak and get her thoughts on this. Megan, same question, but I'm going to throw a little bit of a wrinkle into it. Some nights, it's not going to be your night to score a ton of points. How do you deal with matchups when you get teams that are strong in the mid-range and can slow down the pace and take advantage on their home court?
I mean, you've got to figure it out. You've got to gut it out. If you're not scoring that way and that's not your impact, then you have to have an impact in another category, whether that's rebounding the ball, whether that is turning yourself into a facilitator, whether that's digging in and saying, you know what, my guy's not going to score on me. My guy's not going to, when he passes the ball, he's not going to get it back. I'm going to be in the right help defensive position. You've got to find another way to impact the game if you can't put the ball in the hoop. Sometimes that happens. We've all played different sports, and some nights it's not your night. So what are you going to do on the box score or the little things to still have an impact? And that's where you need to figure it out. And I thought when you take out Kristaps Porzingis, of course, that's 20-plus points a game, and then you also take out Monte Morris and what he's able to do, you're losing a lot. But at the same time, these are all professional athletes and professional basketball players. you have to be ready for the next man up mentality. And I thought that was, kind of a wrinkle, I thought as well, too, this early start. Not only is it a 3:30 start back home, but you also have to take into consideration you lose an hour coming here because you're in a different time zone. So although it's 3:30 back home for the game to tip off, it's 2:30 here. So your routine is now completely thrown off. And as much as you don't want to use that as an excuse or justification, it does play a role in your mindset going into the game. Sticks, you've played in this league. When you have, 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock tip-offs for majority of the season, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into a 3:30/2:30 tip-off, that can throw you off. And you've got to figure out how to get back on track and find your way. And I just thought that was an issue for multiple guys tonight. It was just getting off of track, and they just couldn't get the train back on the track quick enough and at the right time to still make a push to close this game out and get a W.
Jason, to her point, going into the All-Star break, the Wizards were on a 2-game win streak, had won 4 of the last 5. Coming out of that break, everybody was rested. We'd all gone our separate ways, come back, and want to get this second part of the season with some downhill momentum. You struggle with the Knicks game. Now you come out against Chicago. You struggle in this night, too. Where are the players mentally? Because Megan said, you played in this league, man. Where are you mentally as a player when you're facing this kind of disappointment, knowing you've got the tools and the talent to get wins?
Well, it's a little disappointing, especially coming out of the All-Star break, because you want to go out there and continue the momentum that you had going into All-Star break. But I think for these guys, they got to go out there and kind of take it as a fresh start. You got a little bit of a rest going through All-Star break, but you're coming out. You get to go against the opportunity of these teams 7-11, all fighting for the same positioning that you're going for. I think tonight, or today especially, the Wizards, they didn't hit back when the Bulls hit back. Beal was getting pressured by Caruso and Beverly. Did they pressure DeRozan? Did they pressure Levine? No, it looked a little bit too easy out there for them. Now, if they want to have a sense of urgency to go out there and have the potential to get into the play-in game and playoffs, they have to have every single game that they're playing against these teams that are sitting right neck and neck with them. These teams are showing the sense of urgency. I want the Wizards to show that same sense of urgency. And for players, you can't look at it, I was like, oh, we've got this team 4 games ahead. No, it's one game at a time. Continue to take it one game at a time, a quarter at a time. Things that are going wrong maybe in that second quarter and in the fourth quarter, look at those things. Try and correct them, because you want to have even keel consistency. And if you're not getting that, you're going from one game, you're making 19 threes, the next game you got 6 threes. That's not consistent. What you can do consistently, continue to play with great defensive energy, and I want to see more of that from the Washington Wizards.
Hey, Megan, I know that we've got all access with head coach Wes Hall Jr. coming up later here in postgame, but you are our window into what's happening in the arena on these nights. What were you seeing in regards to communication amongst the guys? Because obviously you got to talk to each other. I'm just trying to glean a bit of an understanding as how they were working together through these struggles.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and Sticks knows this because he's been in this league. And when you look at, a frustrating situation against the Knicks on Friday night, if my calendar in my head is correct.
It is.
That was frustrating. And you were in a winnable game, and Coach said it before today's game. We were in it. It was winnable, but we were not successful for 48 minutes. We had stretches, but it wasn't for 48 minutes. And I thought tonight, the stretches that they had success against that Knicks team on Friday, they had even less tonight, to Stix's point. You're getting pressured if you're Bradley Beal. So why not pressure back? And I thought that it was just, you heard Drew talk about it, the body language seemed off. And that is something that I haven't seen this season from these guys, even going back to that 10-game losing streak. The body language was still positive. The guys still seemed upbeat because they were in games and they were close, and it wasn't like they were getting blown out on a nightly basis during that win streak. They were in these games. Tonight it felt different. It seemed like, frustration, especially coming out of the All-Star break, 2 really unfortunate and ugly losses. And that can frustrate you because you look at the talent that they have in this locker room, and they have proven that they can win. They have proven that they can be very successful. They have proven that they can be very dangerous and a very potent offense and defensive team. And for whatever reason, the last 2 games, it just hasn't been there. So I think you're starting to see a bit of frustration. But I imagine when it comes time on Tuesday for Atlanta, they're coming off of a really exciting win. You've got to punch them first, plain and simple. Punch them in the mouth first. This is the first time you're seeing them. throw the first haymaker and do not let them get off the mat.
It's going to be an aggressive matchup, definitely down in Atlanta. Like you said, one team's coming on an emotional high, the other one trying to get back into that feeling, and that's what it's all about. Macon, we appreciate you as always. We'll see you Tuesday in the A-Town. Now, you and I, and as Wizards fans, we all get to enjoy head coach Wes Hall Jr. at the postgame podium talking about tonight's loss against the Bulls.